Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. So, if you're coming in, just let us know what your name is because I cannot see. And I'm so excited for this Friday's live because so many of you in the Facebook group are not only founders, but amazing product founders. Now, this is an area that I have to say I don't know much about. I have a digital product, but getting yourself onto store shelves, that can be a game changer for your business. And I have no idea how to do it. And luckily, we have our awesome wholesale coach and guest expert, Moni, who is joining us. She is a mompreneur. She has an amazingly diverse background, but she found her passion making a product that got onto 600 store shelves without fancy representation, without knowing industry contacts. And so if you're someone that has a product, even if it's just an idea, but something you want to get out there, this episode is for you. Now, remember, we're going to go live every single Friday in this Facebook group at noon. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can join us at getfeaturednow.com. I'm going to probably spend 10 seconds to let more people in, but I am so excited to be joined by our guest, wholesale, retail, store shelves coach, Moni. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Gloria.
So, okay, so you have a very diverse background, and so you said that you came into this. I don't know if it's by accident or a passion project, but you said you got into 600 stores. Can you tell us a little bit about what the product was and how little support you had in order to achieve what I think would be very impossible, but you did it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the product was, I started off this particular business. I had other businesses in the past. It was a headband that you can wear a ton of different ways. And I just noticed that people were really connecting to this product. I had been doing some markets, doing some direct to consumer, and people really liked the product. But I found myself kind of like doing everything. You know, when you have your own business, you're so busy, you're doing so many things.
And
And
you're a mom, so
your mom, yeah, my daughter was having lots of problems with her health, and I just was like getting really burnt out. And I thought, I need to do something. I love this business. I know this product is an amazing product, and I know lots of people feel that way about the product that they're selling. Like there's something there, right? So I knew there was something there. I wanted to get it out to the people like across the world, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't keep doing all the things. So I thought, you know what? I know one way that I can get this product into lots of like people's hands, and it's to sell it to stores. And so I decided to give myself 1 year. So I thought 1 year, I'm going to just like give it my all, just focus on retail and see what's going to happen. And in that first year, it was like the business blew up. I think because I was really focused, I really knew what I wanted to accomplish. And I wasn't doing like 1,000 other things. I was just really focused, honed in on wholesale. And yeah, and in that first year, I ended up getting into over 100 stores. And like you said, I didn't know anyone. Like I didn't know. I mean, I had sold my stores to products to stores. So so I knew what to do, but I didn't know anyone. I actually at one point did hire someone who told me they had all these contacts, and I got nothing from it. And I spent like $15,000 on it. So I know.
what?
I know.
Wait,
So
hold up. Okay, I just want to take this apart a little bit. We got 4 people watching live, more people coming in. This is so key here because so much of, and by the way, while I'm doing this, if you can pull up your headband, like show us, that'd be great. If you have it. But so many of us think we need to know someone or we need to be, yay!
and
There's a
I don't
headband.
have these anymore. Like I sold this business, but they're so fun. Yeah.
Hold up. So not only did you have a passion project, you came from, didn't you say you come from what, finance or
From
government engineering?
IT.
IT. You went from IT to selling headbands.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't know a single person. You weren't friends with influencers. You couldn't just tap them on the shoulder. And you hustled as a mompreneur to get your headband into 600 stores without any connection. So for those of you who are watching, first of all, let's give a round of applause to Moni. Okay. Awesome. And second of all, there's so many things I want to cover, but why don't you tell us from the high level, like mindset things? Because I think 90% of your business is mindset. If for the people who are watching now that have an idea that think, I don't know, this pen, there's no way I'm going to be able to get this. I have to just keep selling on Etsy. What do you have to tell them to get over their mindset objections?
I think almost anything in life, maybe even everything, is so connected to your mindset. So if you if you don't believe it's going to happen, you're not going to take the chances. You're not going to take the risks. You're not going to do the things. So you really need to get into the mindset of, I can do this. And also, I think into the mindset of learning. It's not going to be perfect the first time around. So get that out of your head and be okay with putting something out there and learning about it and then possibly improving. Because I think what happens, and I think this happens to us as coaches too, sometimes we're afraid to put stuff out there, but we don't know if it's going to be great. We don't know until we get feedback from the market. So if you think you have a great product, like, you need to put it out there. You need to start trying and just be okay with failure. It's going to happen, but you're going to learn, and that's what's going to make your product better.
Woohoo! Yes, and I love that we're so aligned because you're a part of the PR starter pack, and maybe it resonated with you because I built my business based on rejection. I came up with my CPR method from rejection. I still don't have a single journalist contact. I studied international relations. Okay, so I feel like we're just cut from the same cloth, honey. Okay, so now let's get into the. So someone says going to be recorded. Yes, this is always recorded. This is in our Facebook group. There's so many things I want to talk about. So you talked about the mindset thing. What about the actual tactical? So for people who are watching, give us some steps if you want to go into your slides or even show us your product. The floor is yours.
Yeah, let me share. And before I go in, I mean, this is going to be very high level, right? There's a lot of things you need to do, but this is kind of like the things that I think are the most important. Okay, share screen.
Yeah, this is so awesome. And I love the headband. It's so awesome that you sold it. I mean, I'm kind of sad that you sold it because I kind of want one, to be honest. But
well, you could still get one because the company's still around.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Wow, you're such a badass. It's so cool that you built something and then you sold it.
Thanks.
You have exited your company.
Yeah, that's the dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is my screen showing up for you right now? There we go.
Stream.
Okay. So like I said, there's a lot of different pieces, and I think some of this advice is possibly even advice you've read somewhere online, but just maybe brushed it off. But don't brush it off. This is some of the most important things that you really need to keep in mind when you want to grow, when you want to get your products into stores. First of all, understanding the buyer. Just like when you're selling direct to consumer, the most important thing is understanding your customer. All of a sudden, you need to understand a different customer. So don't show up to a buyer telling them the exact same thing you're telling your direct to consumer customers, because that's not what matters to them. And it really depends on who you're going after. If you're going after, like large corporate buyers, they're going to have very different needs than, let's say, an independent store, right? Like an independent store, they're really focused on supporting local business, supporting made in America, made in Canada, wherever you are, right? They're going to care really about the person. Like, they're going to want to have a deeper connection. Whereas when you're working with a corporate buyer, they're going to, I think, look more about what are the trends, what's happening right now, are you relevant, is your product relevant, and 1,000 other things, right? And as my second point, I put being a well-known and respected brand can be a major foot in the door. And that's just the truth, right? Like, the more exposure you have, then the more doors open for you. And I don't see any really well-known brands that are not in media. I think you need to be in publications. You need to have your name out there. You need to be seen by people. And when you're out there, when you put yourself out there as a brand, when you have a good social media presence, good PR presence, you're going to seem much more credible to any buyer. But if you're going after corporate buyers, that's super important. Like, you really want to establish yourself as a brand that they need in their stores. So, and then of course you have to show up. Like, you have to show up and look like you know what you're doing. So if you don't know anything about the world of retail wholesale, make sure you educate yourself before you go in. Don't go in looking like a newbie, because buyers are so incredibly busy. Again, especially corporate buyers, they're incredibly busy. And if you end up going and putting yourself out there to buyers without knowing how to work with them, how anything works, they're going to have to, babysit you, hold your hand, and they don't have time for that because they're so busy. So Make sure you're showing up like a pro. Having an amazing brand story that connects with buyers is incredibly important. So again, really understanding what's important to them, and that way you can connect with them. The next thing that I recommend is that you have an amazing sales pitch. What many brands do, and I don't recommend this, is they send a super long email explaining everything about your business, how you came to be, everything else. And then, here's a link to my website, here's a link to my social, here's this and this and this. And again, buyers are incredibly busy, so they don't have time, to go and check you out. Once you've established a relationship with them, once they know that they, want to do business with you, they will check you out. But as a first connection with them, you need to very quickly show them why they should do business with you. And that's what you can do in a great sales sheet. So, and again, if you have any media features, make sure those are included on your sales sheet, because any media makes you stand out to buyers, like apart from other brands that don't have media. And there's a lot of brands who don't understand the value of PR. So the other thing that I'm going to tell you is to not be afraid to reach out to buyers. I think, many of us come up with these amazing products, and these products are like, we love them, we believe in them, but we are afraid that someone is going to say no to us. And that goes back to that mindset where don't be afraid to reach out, because sometimes a no is going to teach you about the product and teach you what you need to change. And, and eventually you're going to get a yes. Eventually a yes will come, and that's going to be such an exciting thing. So don't be afraid to reach out. If you don't reach out, you will 100% not get an order. If you do reach out, your chances are much, much better. The other thing I always say is that amazing branding and packaging is so important when you're going for retail stores. When your product is on a shelf, a store owner, as much as you love your product and you think is the greatest thing, a store owner or their staff are not going to stand next to your product trying to sell it. They have hundreds of other products that they're trying to sell. So you really want to make sure that your product stands out. So when I had my headbands, I'm going to pull up the headband again. I had it on this like really cool packaging. You see the eyes were really drawing people in. And then there's some light here, but it says, yes, you can rock a headband, because a lot of people told me they can't wear headbands. So I wrote, I put this like cheeky thing on here, and then, like I put all the different ways that you can wear the headbands. On the inside, I had my story and what my business stood for. So the packaging was really engaging. So when people came into a store, they would see the eyes, right? They're seeing the eyes. And then they would start looking at the back and seeing all the different ways that they can wear them. And all of a sudden, they didn't need a store, a staff member to tell them, hey, this is why you should buy this headband. They already knew. They were drawn in by the messaging on the front. They were drawn in by the pictures on the back. They can start picturing themselves wearing the headband, all the different ways it could be worn. And it was such an easy sell. And so my branding and my packaging were really, I think, a really key piece in the headbands, not just selling to buyers, because buyers love products on retail ready packaging, but also selling in store. So if you have a product that sells well in store, you're going to have more stores approach you. And that's what happened with me. So I started selling my product to certain stores, and because they like store owners know other store owners, especially independent owners. So they would tell their friends who have a store in a different city or a different town, hey, I'm selling these amazing headbands. They sell really well for me. You should get them. But the other thing that happens if you're selling, or if you're planning on going into, like chain stores, is that chain store buyers all shop all the other stores. So even if you end up getting your products into one chain store, and they see that you have amazing packaging and your product is selling well, chances are it's going to be much, much easier for you to get into other chain stores. So I'm just going to thank you, Gloria, for putting the presentation back up. So really, packaging is key. I'm super passionate about branding and packaging because it's so, so important. So, and then other thing that you really want to do is learn how your line is doing. So before you get orders, you want to collect feedback and really understand why buyers are ordering or not ordering. So even if they say no, find out why. And then find out how your line is doing once you're in stores, and always improve. For me, my product line grew, even my packaging changed over time as I spoke to buyers, as I really deeply understood what was working, what wasn't, what was important to them, and all of that helped my business grow. So I will go to the next slide. Okay, what not to do. So as I mentioned to Gloria previously, working with someone who has connections, I spent so much money. I hired this PR company that told me that they can get me into all these stores, and they didn't. They didn't get me into any of the stores. They got me, I think, I don't know, maybe $2,000 worth of orders in total from tiny boutiques that never, ever ordered from me again. And I ended up spending like $15,000 or more on this company, thinking, this is going to be so amazing. It's going to help my business grow. And it didn't. And I could have taken that $15,000 and done so much more with it for my business. So now I know that if somebody's promising you they're going to get you into all these stores, my experiences, don't believe them, because especially in like the large chain stores, buyers change all the time. So even if somebody knows a buyer, it's very likely that that buyer is going to move on. So I always think you can do it yourself. And as Gloria always says, yeah, then you're not giving your power away to someone else, whether it's, an agency or some like other company that's going to do the sales for you. And especially as you're first starting to sell your products to stores, this is actually a piece of advice I got from someone when I first started out. It was to do it yourself, because you're going to learn so much about your product and your brand and what's working and what isn't. If you hire someone else, you're going to miss a key piece of information. So really know how to do it yourself. And, if in the future you decide you want to hire a sales rep, that's totally fine. Make sure you do a ton of research, but don't ever think someone is going to take your business and amplify it 10 times because they have connections. That's not going to happen. So the other thing not to do is to DIY your branding or packaging. I've seen brands do this where they're like, Moni, I need help with my product. It's not selling. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about your, packaging. And they're like, well, I did my own packaging and I really love it. I think it's great. But the thing is, unless you deeply understand the world of retail, unless you have a graphic design background, I think you're going to be missing out. Again, like, you really want to make sure that your packaging and your branding stand out above everyone else. And so if that's not your area of expertise, I strongly recommend that you work with a pro, like someone who really understands packaging and branding. And then the last thing is what not to do. And, when we look at our direct-to-consumer sales, conversion rates are pretty low, right? I think some are low as 1%, some are 3 to 6%. And we don't let that stop us. We still, go for those buyers. But when it comes to retail stores, I think what happens is sometimes a brand will reach out to a few stores, they don't hear back from them, and then they give up. So don't do that. My advice is reach out to at least 100 stores. And once you reach out to 100 stores and you've collected data, you know why they're buying or not buying, what's going on, then it's much more likely that you're going to know, if your product is a good fit, what you possibly need to update, and you're going to learn so much more about your brand at that time. So yeah, don't just do a few stores. And Gloria's tip to install an email tracker is going to be super helpful here as well, because you're going to know if stores are opening your emails or not, right? And if like nobody opens your email and and you're not getting any replies, then you're going to know, okay, something is wrong with the email, with the approach, not my product itself, right? So I think that's a really great tip, Gloria.
Thank you so much. So now you kind of, first of all, like, That was so awesome. Can we all just give a round of applause to Moni? She only is teaching what she knows by DIYing. You touched upon how you should not give your power away to an agency. And listen, we're not against agencies here, but the people
Totally.
that I serve, the scrappy entrepreneur, they don't have $10,000 to give to a PR agency. And if it doesn't work out, they're still stuck not knowing, right? I think knowing how to do your own PR, that is the number one skill that is going to help you achieve new frontiers in your business. You know this because again, you got burned and you wasted $15,000. I'm sorry about that. But now, you know, you're a part of the starter pack. We just did your one-on-one pitch writing session and you understand how important this stuff is. I also love how you talked about when you do like a pitch, right? And I see this in like when I work with people one-on-one, they'll give me a draft and it's like 3 pages long. So again, if you cannot be concise and you just simply have not tested and fleshed out your product enough, it just shows that you're still in that beginning phase. And so I think there's so many different things. There's the mindset trick where people just can't press send. And then there's overstuffing a pitch, which also shows me that you haven't really done the work. Everything that me and Moni are trying to do is to get you to a point where you are practicing your pitch, you're testing it. So do you have any other tips and tricks about like, so you talked about branding, you talked about packaging, you talked about photography. What about some other tactical stuff like website or logo or, you know, pricing or things like that? And if you have any questions, please put in the comments because again, Moni is here and this is her zone of genius. We want to make sure that we ask her all the questions while we can.
Awesome. Yeah. So I wouldn't call myself, you know, a marketing expert, even though it comes easily to me. So when it comes to, let's say like your logo, hire a designer. When it comes to your website, have a great website. And if you want to sell your products to stores, make sure you let stores know, hey, we do wholesale or looking for wholesale. It's so simple. So many people don't even put that on their website. They want to get their products into stores, but they don't. When it comes to pricing, it's have profit in your pricing. And I actually have a free tool to show people how to very quickly figure out their pricing for wholesale, making sure that there's profit in there.
Please drop that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I will find that link for you and I'll drop it into the chat after. So I think pricing is so important, especially really understanding what the pricing is like in the market. So, you know, I teach people how to like get everything ready for wholesale, and pricing is one of those things. But I think like we have to understand the marketplace. We have to understand the buyer, but also who are our competitors. So when you set your pricing, you're not just like $25. Like you got to think it through. You have to do research. You have to understand whether that $25 is the right thing and whether, you know, when you sell to a store, especially for independent retailers, when you're selling gift items or clothing, you're selling everything at 50% off retail price. So wholesale price is 50% off. So that means in that 50%, there needs to be profit in there for you as well. Because if there is no profit, then it doesn't make sense. Oh, and there's a question. What percentage profit do you recommend aiming for with wholesale pricing? So it really depends like on so many things. You want to sell your products 50% off retail, unless you're a food product or beverage, but I'm not an expert in that arena. I have to say, if you're selling food or beverage to groceries, the margins are much smaller. But if you're selling, you know, gifty items or clothing, 50% off. And you always want to make sure that there is, you know, money left in there for you. And like I said, I do have a profit calculator. I'll pop into the comments later. So Corinne, you can have a look at it. Do you need to be making a certain amount in sales before approaching stores? I don't think so. I mean, I think you need to have things figured out. So you need to know how to produce more than a few of your item, right? You need to make sure that if somebody places an order, you can get the supplies or you already have some stock, so that, you know, you're not like, oops, I can't make this. Like you got to think things through beforehand. But I don't think that you need to have a certain amount of sales. I mean, if you have a lot of sales, you can always use that as another selling feature in your sales sheet. But I've seen companies that, you know, that don't. Like I spoke to a maker recently here in Canada, and she got her product, and this was her first time ever. She got her product into a major chain store in Canada. And like every maker in Canada wants to be in this store called Indigo. And she got in just like that. She's never sold it to any other store. She doesn't even know how to do it. So it's possible, it's definitely
You got to
possible.
aim high. When I do my pitch writing sessions, people are like, "Oh, I think I can just get into like a local blog." I'm like, "Why not Fast Company? Why not Vogue?" I
I
mean,
know.
and it happens. I mean, Ada Lip Beauty, like she uses CPR method. She got on the front page of Cosmo, and she literally just messaged me right now in the DMs, and she said that Allure just published her
That's so exciting.
using the pitch that I came up with her. But obviously it was months ago. But she was waiting, and it just
Yeah.
happened. And so now she knows writers at Allure, and she still has like 150 followers. So it is all possible.
Yeah,
Okay, so we have
and
one more, and then I want.
you're so good at that because like you did the same thing for me. The pitch we wrote was like pretty. It was pretty amazing. I was like, whoa, like we're
Oh,
aiming pretty high. So I'm excited to put it out there.
yeah, and that media list I gave you, it's a really good pitch. I learned a lot from writing your pitch, and thank you for being a part of the starter pack, and then getting the one-on-one session. So we have two more questions here. So how do you go about finding who is the buyer for the retail store?
There's many different ways that you can find buyers. I think depending on what kind of store you're reaching out to. And I offer some training on how to find buyers, but at a high level, you can just contact and find out, like ask. I think people think it's like a big secret, but you can just contact. If it's an independent store, you just directly reach out to them. If it's a large company, you can very often find stuff on Google, just Googling like who is the buyer for this particular store.
Corinne has another question. By the way, Corinne is an amazing mindset coach, and she has a program. I'm going to be doing a PR masterclass in her program as well. So look her up.
Okay.
She's a founder of Artisan Pharmacy. So Corinne has another follow-up question for you.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations or strategy tips for how to find retail stores that might be interested in your products? I do. Yeah. I think one of the best ways to do is to look at what your competitors are doing and look at where they're selling, because those stores are already buying similar products.
Wow. Okay. That is awesome. So who else has questions? We have 9 people live. Moni again has overcome all of the limiting beliefs. She used to work in IT and made headbands. And as a busy mompreneur, she got her headbands into 600 stores without a single contact, and even got burned by an agency after paying $15,000. So she can tell you more than anyone and more than me that knowing how to pitch yourself, whether it's using the CPR method or what have you, that is literally the number one skill you're going to have. That's going to allow you to keep getting invited to every single table. I don't care if it's talking to an influencer or convincing someone to meet you or convincing someone to say yes to that partnership. It's just that skill that's always going to get you to yes. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're all about. So whether that's for stores or for PR. So does anyone have any questions?
Gloria, was R was, can you remind me what R stood for?
Relevance. So CPR stands for credibility, point of view, and relevance. And yeah, I just did a one-on-one pitch with Moni the other day, and I'm really excited about you getting it out there.
Yeah, me too. And you know what, I think the things that you're learning in the CPR method are also like so important when you're pitching stores, right? Because you need to be credible and you need to be relevant to them. It needs to appeal to them, right? So it's a brilliant formula.
Yeah, and the thing about the CPR method is that it's a framework, it's specific, it's concise. So as you said, stores hate long, drawn-out pitches. Editors hate long, drawn-out pitches. It shows that you're still not quite fleshed out and you haven't really practiced that pitch, right? So what are some of the other do's and don'ts? I mean, now, like, can you just like go into a store? Like, what can you message them on Instagram? Like, how do you actually go about like tactically like reaching out to them? What about follow-up?
You know what? I would not personally go into a store. I don't know how things are in the States, but in Canada, we're just opening up. And I think there's still a lot of hesitation about in person. And the other thing is when you show up at a store in person without making an appointment, it can be annoying to them, right? They might be busy. Like they're trying to sell stuff. They're not actively looking for products. But if you send them an email, then they have an opportunity to decide when they're going to open it, when they're going to act on it. They check their emails, when they're in that more like business mode. I don't recommend DMing stores on Instagram unless it's kind of like they haven't responded to your emails, but they're opening them. And the reason I don't recommend it is because they're on Instagram trying to get customers. So if you get in their DMs trying to sell to them, it's like you're taking their time away from them dealing with their customers, if that makes sense.
That's so different than journalists, because journalists are looking for stories. So like that's a part
Yeah,
of the starter pack method is, actually like follow up
I
and it
know.
actually
Yeah.
works. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I think it's different because I think what happens with stores, like journalists are actively always looking for stories, and stores
Mm-hmm.
are looking for products, but they also have this other piece where they're actively selling those products all the time to customers, right? So I think a journalist, when they're probably writing the story, they're okay if other emails or DMs come in, whereas a store owner is like actively on social, dealing with customers, and journalists are, I'm going to guess, on there looking for things continuously, right?
Awesome. Okay, so we're going strong. We had like 10 people on here at once. So we're about at the half of the hour. Does anyone have any other questions for Moni? I know Cam just joined us and he just booked a session with me. He has an awesome project, by the way. So Cameron, if you're here, let us know. He is from Ride Beyond and he makes like these really cool scooters. So yeah, let's see. We have some skincare people here. We have beauty. Is there anything specific that's like niche wise, like beauty versus fashion versus like a tech hardware? Like, is there any difference there?
Definitely. I have actually not worked with any tech. Like I've done mostly products that sell in gift stores. So clothing, fashion, greeting cards, art, all sorts of things like that. I think someone in the group yesterday asked a question. They wanted to get their jewelry into stores, right? And I told her I was
Oh
going to talk about a student of mine. So a student of mine started out with me. She sells eco-friendly cork earrings, and she just started out doing wholesale, and she got into 5 stores, which got kind of exciting for her. So she signed up for my program, and she's now in over 50 stores, which I
what?
think is so cool. Yeah, yeah. And she just messaged me a few weeks ago. She's like, we need to amplify. We need to amplify. I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to start talking about PR and like actually amplifying her brand even
That's
more.
awesome.
So it's
Look at you. So
exciting.
if you want to share your screen and show us a little bit more about your program, or if you can talk, that's great too. Tell us how people can
Yeah.
find you, DM you. Obviously, you're a part of the group, a part of the PR Starter Pack community as well. But how can people find you and work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ways that I help my students is through a program called Winning with Wholesale. Currently, Winning with Wholesale is not open, so I open it a few times a year. But for anyone who is thinking that they want to start getting their products into stores, they want to like dip their toes in the water, I have something else that's really awesome, and I'm going to share my screen again, Gloria,
Yeah, cool.
so that I can. Okay. No, see, I shared the wrong screen. I was like, you think someone that was like,
Well, before that, let's answer another question by Cameron, the
oh,
one who actually just joined. He has this
yeah,
awesome product. So if you can answer his question, what a cool graphic, by the way.
method. We develop smart helmets, which would be a new product for bike stores. Is there a method for evaluating the benefits for going after big retailers versus smaller brick and mortars? Well, I think what I would probably do, Cameron, is look at your competitors or where similar products or complementary products are being sold. Start looking at those and see, what makes more sense. So like it's really about doing research. It's really understanding the market. The more you go into the market, the more you look at your competitors, the more you look at your possible dream retailers, the more you're going to learn. And as you learn, you're going to, get more and more ideas. And I'm going to say like if there was just like a formula and I was like, this is all you have to do, everybody would be doing it, right? It's business and we have to take the time to learn and grow and figure it out and to test. So there's no simple formula that's like, this is the answer. But I think the more you know, the more you understand what's happening in the marketplace, the better you'll be able to know. And the other thing is, if you missed, the first part of the presentation, my advice is to test, to put things out there and see what happens, right? Like, is there something holding you back from from reaching out to a large retailer versus a smaller brick and mortar? Like, do you have questions about it? Because if you do, sometimes the fastest way to find out is to just put it out there and see what happens.
So I have a question. I have no idea about brick and mortar versus big retailers, but with PR and press, it's like the more press you get, the more press you're gonna get. So is it something like that as well, where like if you get into one big retailer, you can put that in your messaging to convince all the brick and mortars? It's like a tool you can leverage.
Yeah,
it's the
totally.
Same thing with press.
It's the same thing with actually both small independent retailers as well as chains. So chain store buyers and small independent buyers, they all shop each other's stores. They all do research. They all go around trying to find new products, see what's doing well. So when I had my headbands in a lot of stores, there would be stores that would approach me, directly reach out to me and say, I want to carry your products. I was at a store at a different town. I saw your products, love to carry them. Or they'd say, my friend has a store in this other town and they told me about your product, so now I want to carry it. And so that's just it. The more stores you're in, the more stores are going to order from you because they're going to start seeing your product and wanting to carry it in their store. Of course, as long as the product is doing well.
Okay, I love that. It's like the gift that keeps on giving, right? It's like,
totally.
I always, like I said before, it's like, why not aim for like the top tier? And then once you do that, like I just did a VIP day for a client yesterday. And I was like, why not go for TechCrunch? Because they were doing AI instead of just like the AI blogs. Because if you can say in your email pitch, we have TechCrunch interested, all of the other blogs are going to be like, of course, I'm going to cover it. Totally. And it's not like it's like a scarcity thing. It's not like if one person covers it, the other person can't. And so, Cameron, I'm so excited for our pitch writing session. I'm excited for our VIP day. So, Moni, why don't you? Okay, I'm going to share the screen. You can tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I can't scroll here, so I'm gonna have to go to this actual screen. Hey, okay. So this is my website, coopsleyconsulting.com, and if you look at my name, I think on this live, you can also see my Instagram handle. If you go into my Instagram, then you can also find my website there. So I have this really cool product that I recently launched. I'm going to put this out here. And it's email templates, basically, that help you reach out to stores. So if you don't know what to say, these email templates are going to help you big time. They're only $37. It's like a very small ticket item to get your foot in the door. I teach you not only what to say, but how to actually pitch. Like I said, I always say, like, reach out to 100 buyers, how to reach out to 100 buyers in 30 days, just 10 minutes a day, and start collecting information, start getting those wholesale orders, and start growing your business.
Boom. I love that you broke it down to actionable strategies, because for the PR starter pack, I say 10 minutes a day, that's all you need. And I say get 5 rejections, because if you can't even get 5 rejections, you're not even close to the point where you can be in the energy where you're going to break through to the top tier. So for you, reaching out to 100 stores, do you have something like that around like rejection and like how people can just see that as fuel?
Absolutely. I think as we find out from buyers why they don't want to carry our products, if they tell us no, we need to find out why. Like, what's going on? Why don't they want to carry it? Because I always say buyers, they have all these nuggets of gold that they're willing to share as long as you ask. So if they say no, you can find out why. They might tell you, your packaging isn't there or something else, and that's going to give you the fuel, the information to grow your business. But I will say this, if one buyer tells you something, don't take it to heart. If you hear it from several, take it to heart and listen to it, because sometimes people will get an advice from one buyer and they start freaking out. I actually saw this in a group that I was in yesterday. They're selling their products. This woman said in 25 stores, and one of the stores said that you should have UPC codes. So she's freaking out, trying to figure out where to get UPC codes. And I said, did any other store tell you this? Like, has anyone else given you that advice? Because one store's advice does not mean that's how everyone feels. And she's like, no one has literally ever asked me that before. I was like, well, maybe you shouldn't be putting your effort there. You should be putting your effort into just keep going forward and growing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what we do is so complementary. It's like everything you want is on the other side of the send button. And that's what Vincent said. Vincent, he's the one on my masterclass that built his business during COVID and was basically sold his company to ex WeWork employees in 12 months. This is possible with what you're doing here because you also sold your headband company. So everyone, let's give a round of applause to Moni. Thank you so much for being part of the starter pack. Thank you for being our resident wholesale coach. I'm probably going to be tapping on your shoulder to have you do another one of these.
Totally,
Because I think there's a lot of angles like seasonally too, right? Because there's like the
totally.
gift order. And so I'm probably we'll probably do one like closer to the holidays because I think people are going to be like, what should I do? So we'll definitely have that. And then in the meantime, please follow her. And then please look out for her for this wholesale tool, which is awesome. Email templates. She basically did all the work for y'all. Okay. All you have to do
Yeah,
is just send Koopsley Consulting and then follow her. And she's in the group. So we got so many people who are going to follow up with you. Just reply in the comments. And if you have any
totally.
questions, is it okay if they ask you in the replay and you can just respond?
Totally, totally. Gloria, can I add one thing too?
Yeah.
So I do want to say that buyers are starting to now look for products for holiday 2021, like
Wow.
actively. So now is the time. I know some people are taking the summer off, but really now is the best time to start selling your products to stores because they're
Boom. Let's
looking.
get that runway.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, let's do it. I say the same thing for press. I'm like,
yeah,
the earlier you throw your name in the hat, the better chances you have. So thank
totally.
you so much, Moni, for being here. We're
Thank
gonna
you.
put the replay up in all the places. You're very active in our group. Thank you so much for being open to having people ask you questions. And if there are no more questions, then we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful
Thank
weekend,
you.
everyone.
Yes, thank you, Gloria.
And thank
Take
you for
care.
coming with your slides and giving us a dose of inspiration. We all need to just get over ourselves and press that send, right?
Yeah, totally, totally. Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Gloria.